Es que al final de cuentas yo creo que Shakira ni le ha de haber cobrado un peso. O sea, esto lo hizo Shakira de a gratis. Hay que tomar eso en cuenta.
Welcome to Shakipedia, your go-to podcast to learn about everything Shakira related. This is Callie.
Yo soy Alejandra.
This is Loïc. In this episode, we are going to talk about the other sporting events where she performed beyond the World Cup, which we've already discussed in a previous episode.
Stay tuned to learn about Shakira's performances at the NBA All-Star Game, the Davis Cup, the Super Bowl, and Copa América.
Shakira ha elevado el juego y no hablamos solo de su carrera. El mundo la ha visto llevar su música y su baile inigualable a otros eventos deportivos masivos.
All right, let's talk a little bit about each of these performances in more detail, going in chronological order. Callie, ladies first.
Awesome. Well, we can start with the NBA All-Star Game, which took place on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2010. For those who don't know, and I was one of them before I started prepping for this episode, it turns out that the NBA All-Star Game is a game that takes place after the entire season has ended for the NBA here in the United States. And different coaches and different people, fans, I'm not sure, different people will vote to select their favorite players to play against each other in a game that doesn't really have a major outcome. It's just more for fun. So it doesn't affect the original teams that they come from. So players will end up playing with people from all different teams and just play this one game. So Shakira was selected to perform at the halftime of the All-Star Game in 2010. And I was actually surprised to learn that Shakira, in fact, was not the only performer who played music for their halftime that year. Shakira played alongside Alicia Keys and Usher. Did you guys know that she was not the only performer?
No sabía que también Alicia Keys y Usher estuvieron ahí.
Yeah, from what I could tell, it was hard to be 100% sure based on the YouTube videos I found, but it seemed like Alicia Keys performed first, then maybe Usher, and then perhaps Shakira. I'm not entirely clear about that, but it definitely seemed like Alicia Keys was the first of these three performers to play. I won't go into those two artists' set lists, but they played either 2 or 3 songs each, I believe. And for Shakira, she had a very quick set list with only 2 songs. So she performed She-Wolf, followed by Give It Up to Me. Have both of you seen this performance?
Sí, es cuando Shakira sale de la jaula.
Yes. The stage is covered in dry ice, so it looks like it's all smoky and spooky. And on the screens, they have her name, and it's very, very She-Wolf era coded, I would say, because they're making it seem like very like spooky and everything. So it's very fun. And then yes, from the dry ice, she comes up from the stage, and she's inside a golden cage, which obviously is a reference to the She-Wolf music video. What do you two think about that portion of the performance?
I kind of liked it, actually. Both She-Wolf and Give It Up to Me. I know you hate that song, but I found it kind of catchy, so I really liked it.
It was kind of interesting because I learned that this was the very last performance ever of Give It Up to Me. At the time that we're recording this, and personally I hope it stays that way because I don't like Give It Up to Me, there has only been 8 live performances of Give It Up to Me. And so she arrives from the stage and she's in a gold cage, and then she plays She-Wolf, and then she disappears from the stage and comes back in a different outfit. And there is a marching band that kind of opens up the performance for Give It Up to Me. Something that I learned while prepping for this episode, I zoomed in because I saw that there are letters on the leader of their marching band's outfit, and it says GSU. And I was like, that doesn't say She-Wolf. That doesn't say Give It Up to Me. I was like, what does that even mean? Why would it say GSU? And it turns out that GSU stands for Grambling State University, which is a university that is specifically a historically Black college or university. In the United States, there's institutions that are called HBCUs. And they're institutions of higher education that were built before the civil rights movement of the 1960s in the United States. to allow Black and African American students to have access to education, which was not previously promised to Black communities in the United States. So I thought it was cool that they brought in a very successful marching band that came from this university, because we know, and we discussed many, many episodes ago on our Give It Up to Me episode, that the choreography for the Give It Up to Me music video was from what's called stepping, which originated in traditionally Black colleges across the United States. So it's interesting that they got an actual marching band. And I don't know if some of the dancers on the stage were also from that school or not, but I thought it was cool that they represented that. So that is a little bit about what happened on the stage. I would say She-Wolf was kind of like your standard She-Wolf performance beyond just the gold cage. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Sí, totalmente.
Yeah. So Give It Up to Me was kind of the more interesting, I would say, part of the performance, in my opinion. And I also noticed that Shakira mixed up some of the lyrics. So in Give It Up to Me, where she should say, Tim, give me some, she says, Tim, bring me some. And then where she says, what you give's exactly what you receive, she says, what you see's exactly what you receive. So at least we know there was live vocals. I guess that's a win.
O también la tendencia de Shakira de cambiar la letra de sus propias canciones.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe she was intentionally improvising. I'm not entirely sure. I did notice that the audio for this performance in particular, I'll be curious to hear if that was the same for the performances you all are going to discuss. But for this one, her vocals seemed really far back in the mix. It was really hard to actually hear Shakira's voice very clearly in both songs. So yeah, I guess that's kind of the highlights of the NBA All-Star Game performance. I was happy to learn that she wasn't alone. There was other stars there. And it seems that that is the case. I looked up performances from many other years, and it looks like there's always a few performers each year. And then for me, even though I'm not a fan of the song, I would say that the Give It Up to Me performance is a bit more interesting. The Cage was fun for She-Wolf, but I mean, it's only 2 songs, so there isn't too much to discuss. But I know a lot of fans really like the fashion that she wore here, because for She-Wolf, she had big, I don't know the right word. Shoulder pads is like the wrong word, but like something on her shoulders that makes her look like taller or like more impressive or bigger than she typically is. And then in Give It Up to Me, she had an outfit with like buttons on the front of the jacket that she wore. Loïc, I know in particular you pay attention to Shakira's fashion. I'm curious what you think of her outfits here.
The shoulder, how do you call them? Shoulder patch?
I guess that's what I would call them, because I don't know what else they would be called.
It's kind of weird. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. So yeah, meh. But I really like the Give It Up to Me one. I don't know, I like it. It's kind of fun.
Something else I noticed is that she did some of the same choreography directly from the Give It Up to Me video, especially where she's like moving her hands in maybe more like a belly dancing influenced way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
I'd say more like an
cool.
Indian dance. This feels like I don't know.
Creo que además Shakira le echó mucha energía porque no es una coreografía fácil para hacer y no es lo mismo estar en un estudio haciéndola y una y otra vez para un video que ya hacerla en una presentación en vivo y para un evento así.
I'm curious why that was the last performance of Give It Up to Me. Again, I will never miss that on a future set list, so I'm not complaining. But it would be interesting to know why they chose to stop promoting it after this NBA All-Star Game performance. I would have assumed that it would make it at least to some tour performances, but it never did. So that was all that I was able to find about the NBA All-Star Game.
Bueno, wow, Cali, eso fue muchísima información respecto a esta presentación de Shakira en el All-Star Game donde cantó She-Wolf, ella, lobísima, y también nos dio Give It Up to Me. Pero unos años después, Shakira regresó a un evento deportivo y ahora fue una cosa totalmente distinta. ¿Nos quieres hablar ahora de la Copa Davis?
Yes. So Shakira was selected to close the Davis Cup, and that was on November 24th, 2019. And I had to look it up, but it turns out that the Davis Cup is a tournament between national teams in men's tennis, and it took place in Madrid, Spain. I believe from I read this at some point that Gerard Piqué became involved with the management of the Davis Cup. Obviously, he's known to be a soccer player, but he got connected to the Davis Cup one way or another. And the 2019 Davis Cup was also sponsored by Rakuten, which is basically, my understanding is it's that like the Japanese version of Amazon. So a huge, huge company with e-commerce and other services. And Rakuten, I believe, was also a sponsor of one of Shakira's tours. Is that correct?
Sí.
Yeah.
Sí, yo me acuerdo durante El Dorado. Sin más, no me acuerdo.
That would make sense because if that was in 2018, when she was on the El Dorado World Tour here in 2019, just a few months later, then she got connected. So it took place in Madrid, and Shakira this time performed 3 songs. So the set list for her performance was She Wolf, followed by Tutu, featuring both Camilo and Pedro Capo there to accompany her. And then closing with La La La, Brazil 2014. And I know there's a lot of attention on this performance in particular because it was only a few months before the Super Bowl performance. So it had already been announced that she was going to be performing at the Super Bowl in early 2020. So I think a lot of fans were paying attention to see, ooh, is this going to be a teaser of the Super Bowl? Is it going to be different than what she ends up doing in the Super Bowl or what? So I look forward to your guys' thoughts on that.
Gracias a la vida no fue así.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Let's talk about that now then. What do you guys think about that?
I personally remember when I watched the performance the day after the night, and I was like, oh my God, I really hope this isn't like a preview of the Super Bowl because it's gonna be like horrible.
What was horrible about it for you?
Tutu. I hate that song. I think I hate Tutu as much as you hate PN20.
Wow. That exactly. That's a big statement, Loïc.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I was like, oh my God, please don't do that for the Super Bowl. Please. And
Wow.
hopefully she didn't. So thank God.
Wow. Personally, I enjoyed the Tutu remix performance because A, it was just funny that it even existed. And B, I don't think any of us expected her to do it live at all. And I'm a big fan of all of her songs being performed live at least once. Since I've launched Shakipedia, I've really realized how many songs are just completely forgotten and have never even had a single live performance. Songs that I know a lot of fans would enjoy, like Lo Imprescindible, Cut Me Deep, Dreams for Plans, Mon Amour. Like all of these have not been performed a single time, at least at the time that we're recording this. So to me, it was so ha ha ha, like LOL that she performed it. And I thought it was nice that she brought both Camilo and Pedro Capo, because for those who are familiar with that song, it's called a remix because it originally belonged to those two artists. So it was nice that she brought them there to perform. And also, I was happy with this performance because I'm so used to her just playing whenever, wherever, and Hips Don't Lie everywhere she goes. So even if we're not a huge fan of every single song that she played here, I just thought it was nice that she switched things up and had a different mix of songs. I see you nodding. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, good points. I mean, you're definitely right. Like, we need to hear something else than Hips Don't Lie, whenever, wherever, and so on. But yeah, no, I didn't like it.
Well, you said you didn't like Tutu remix. Alejandra, what did you think of this performance of She Wolf and perhaps Dare La La La?
Creo que yo estoy en acuerdo contigo en esta, Cali. A diferencia de Loïc, yo no odio Tutu. Tampoco es como que mi favorita, pero sí la escucho. Sí escucho esa canción. Y me pareció tierno o lindo, no sé cómo decirlo, que haya invitado a ellos dos, porque también siento que Shakira a lo largo de su carrera le ha dado espacio a otros artistas y como ponerlos pues en los miradores, en los reflectores. Se me hizo interesante que los haya invitado para esta presentación. También yo amé que no hayan sido las típicas canciones de siempre. De hecho, me quedé, oh, wow, Shakira cantando Tutu en un evento deportivo es súper extraño. Interesante. Me pareció interesante. Bueno, también tengo que decir que a mí me encantó ese vestido azul que trae Shakira. y las botas. A mí siempre me fascina verla bailando descalza, pero también me encanta cómo lo hace cuando trae tacones. Es como, Shakira, ¿cómo le haces tú para hacerte estas coreografías y usando taconcitos? Pero creo que ella se veía súper linda.
I agree. I really liked her hair as well in this performance. It was so long and she had like a full on blowout, like it was quite straight. So I thought she looked really nice. And this is again years before she would launch Isima. So her hair is looking extra great here.
Sí.
Something I really enjoyed is the intro of this performance. They also made it very spooky for this performance of She-Wolf, similar to what I was describing for the NBA All-Star game. They had pictures of a wolf on the screen, and then there was lightning crashing all over. It was just very eerie. And then the first thing that we see when people appear on the screen is not Shakira, but in fact her dancers. They're kind of making a line, and they're dancing with each other, and they're wearing basically the She-Wolf like black outfit that Shakira has in the music video with like one leg and one arm cut out. So that's super cool. And I have watched this so many times, and it took me a while to figure out like where Shakira was in order to appear on the screen. But I saw a fan video from a fan's perspective, and I could see that Shakira is actually to the right of the dancers as they're dancing. So if you look at the actual performance, you can see Shakira crouching down. She's on her knees, and you can finally see Shakira back there if you take a quick look. So I recommend that fans look for that. So her performance here, and yes, her outfit is really fun and sparkly.
Sí, a mí me gustó. Y Cali, ¿no es esta presentación en la que usa el intro, que es el mismo que usa en Las Mujeres Ya No Lloran, o lo estoy confundiendo? El concierto. ¿O no?
I think what you're referring to is the intro of Der La 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 here at the Davis Cup is the exact same that she used for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Ah, es verdad.
Yeah, where she's like, hola, hola, la, 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 la. And I believe that was already used on the Sale el Sol tour, to be fair. But the choreography is very, very similar here. Yeah. I can't find this online anymore, but I know for a fact around the time that this performance happened that there were fans who shared about their experience of being hand venue early and be able to see Shakira rehearse that day. So then there were fans that came out during the performance of Der La 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 at the end. So that was cool that she invited fans to be there with her. And at one point, she puts the mic out into the crowd when they're just saying la, 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 la. And one guy, his voice sounds so bad.
Solo tenía un trabajo que hacer.
I know. She like only lets him do it for a second, then she moves the mic to someone else.
Sí. Sí me di cuenta de eso.
So yeah, that guy had his like 5 seconds of fame, let's say.
Sí.
Yeah.
También algo que me gusta de esta presentación es que ahí se ve que Shakira ya estaba sí ensayando o por lo menos practicando lo que vendría a ser el Super Bowl, porque las bailarinas, no me equivoco, la de cabello morado es quien le enseñó la champeta, que eso ya lo íbamos a ver después.
Yes.
Ali, ¿sabes algo de eso?
Yes, absolutely. So here I would say she has a more diverse group of dancers than she had at the NBA All-Star game in 2010. Here she had a wider mix of different body types and hair types, and they were all quite short. I think she always works with short dancers because she's quite short. But yes, I noticed that here we have 3 dancers that ended up being with her since then that have gone on to be in some of her music videos on future tours. And those dancers are Liz Danny, who Shakira supposedly found on Instagram and later taught her champeta, which she performed on the Super Bowl stage and is still on tour with her to this day. There's also Darina, who has been with her since then as well, and then a dancer from Spain named Natalia Palomares. 2 last things I wanted to mention were that she switched up the lyrics from the original La 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 Brazil 2014 version, where she said here, instead of German, Colombian, Spanish, and French, she says Serbian, Colombian, Spanish, and French. So she changes German to be Serbian here. And I did take a look, and Serbia did indeed play at the final for the Davis Cup, or at least they were towards the end of the Davis Cup. I think there was multiple games, but Serbia was there playing. And then she says, instead of saying it's Brazil and now you know it, she says it's Madrid and now you know it, since this performance took place in Madrid. And that's why I'm kind of curious why she chose to sing She-Wolf and La 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 in English instead of in Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like more lot of people like watch the performance. So she was gonna say no, I don't want to do the English version because a lot of people know the English version and not the Spanish one, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose
Sí.
that makes sense.
Y también, Cali, no sé si sea verdad, pero hablando de que estaba en España, o sea, y como mencionamos hace rato, en aquel entonces, Piqué era el que estaba encargado de esta, a través de su empresa Cosmos Tenis. Y por lo que ahí leí por ahí, no sé si sea verdad, es que al final de cuentas yo creo que Shakira ni le ha de haber cobrado un peso. O sea, esto lo hizo Shakira de a gratis. Hay que tomar eso en cuenta para cada vez que alguien diga que Shakira no lo ha superado y que sigue cantándole la de la sesión 53, no, ella tiene todo el derecho de hacerlo. Porque cuántas cosas hizo mi Shakis. Ay, Dios mío.
Oh my gosh. All the chisme that we would do anything to know. There's just so many things that we'll just never hear, I'm sure.
Ujú.
And the last thing I wanted to share is it's no longer available on YouTube that I could find, but at the time that this came out, I remember that 60 Minutes did an in-depth behind the scenes for her preparing and rehearsing for this performance as well as the Super Bowl. And the Super Bowl clips are still on YouTube. But there was an interview that I remember clearly, having watched several times, where they followed Shakira rehearsing for the Davis Cup. And she said that she rehearsed 3 months for this 8-minute performance. 3
Oh.
months for this 8-minute performance, I reiterate. And that clip also included some conversations with Camilo. And for those who don't know, Camilo is a Colombian pop star as well. And he said that Shakira was very strict on the choreography and was saying, like, don't stand in front of me and like between me and the camera, like be here, be here. She was like really guiding him to get used to like where he should stand. And she was like, we need a money shot. Like we need a really good angle and like we have to look like this and blah, blah, blah. And there was a part where she was saying like, you have to look at me in the eyes for there to be like chemistry with these lyrics, like look at me directly. And he said in the interview on 60 Minutes that he was like dying inside when she was saying that, because he's like, do you understand, to me as a Colombian who's younger than Shakira, I grew up with her on the radio. She's like our like world ambassador. And she's saying, you must look at me in the eyes. And he said he was like dying inside. And if you look at the performance, he does look right at her. So he
Sí.
followed through on what she recommended. But he was just like, oh my God, my heart was beating out of my chest. I was so anxious that she said, look at me. You have to look at me. So that made me feel sweet towards Camilo, because that would be so intimidating for me as well.
Pero imagínate que Shakira te dé esas instrucciones. Claro que sí. Claro que sí.
Of course. Wow. Well, I've been talking for quite a bit, so I'm excited to hear about another event that followed the Davis Cup by just less than 2 months, actually. Loïc, do you want to tell us everything that we need to know about Shakira's performance at the 2020 Super Bowl?
Yeah, sure. Let's deep dive into one of another most iconic moments of her career, the Pepsi Super Bowl 54 halftime show on the 2nd of February 2020. So Shakira co-headlined with Jennifer Lopez in Miami. It was the first time two Latina superstars took the stage together for a Super Bowl show. So over 100 million people watch it live, and it became the most viewed halftime performance ever on YouTube, with currently nearly 340 million views. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
So, for context, the Super Bowl is the annual championship game of the NFL, the National Football League, which is the biggest pro football league in the US. Every February, the two best teams of the season face off in a massive event that draw over 100 million viewers in the US alone. It's not just like a game, it's a huge cultural spectacle with crazy commercials, celebrities, and of course, the legendary halftime show.
I just want to add that as someone who's been a Shaki fan for years and years and years, we know that her World Cup performances have been epic and have probably been way more viewed than the Super Bowl. But as someone who lives here, it wasn't until she was selected for this performance that a lot of my friends were like, oh my God, Shakira's a massive deal, huh? Because she got selected for the Super Bowl. And I was like, yeah, she's already played at several World Cups by now. But because we don't really care about soccer, so many of my friends have never even heard the song Waka Waka, let alone seen those performances. So I know we would love for her to have even the full halftime to perform. But with the time that she had, my friends who are non-Shaki fans here were really impacted and were like, wow, now I understand why you love her so much.
So let's go back to the build-up. In late 2019 and early 2020, Shakira started teasing it in an October 2019 Apple Music interview. She first mentioned preparing for something huge. And in January 2020, she sat down for 60 minutes on CBS. And when asked about the message she wanted to send, Shakira said, I quote, I think the message is going to be, listen, I'm a woman, I'm a Latina. It wasn't easy for me to go to where I am. And being at the Super Bowl is the proof that everything is possible, that the dream of a little girl from Barranquilla, Colombia, they were made of something of what dreams are made of. And I'm going to be there giving it all.
Oh,
Oh, fast
Shaki.
forward to the game day. So it was in Miami, Hard Rock Stadium, the Chiefs versus the 49ers. The show opens with Shakira in a marvelous red Peter Dundas outfit with tons of Swarovski crystals dancing to a brief la 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 moment. And personally, when I hear that, I was like, oh my God, it's gonna be a second Davis Cup. And I was like, no. But then she opened the show with the now iconic Hola Miami. She then continues with She Wolf, and surprisingly, at least for me, with a small and amazing part of Empire. And I was like, wow, she's like singing Empire. That's amazing.
Yes, not only was she playing Empire period, but she was playing freaking Empire at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I was like, wow. What's going on? Then she takes her guitar and play a little bit of an instrumental version of Inevitable. And she samples the very cool Kashmir from Led Zeppelin just before the first ever Spanish song being performed at the Super Bowl show of Rosasi. After a beautiful belly dance with a rope she carries on with whenever, wherever, she then gets rid of her belly dance belt and covers Cardi B's I Like It, Enjoy, Arroyo, and Barranquilla Me Quedo with an unexpected and back in 2020 not so famous Bad Bunny. Like everyone was like, who's that guy? And she then performs the salsa version of Chantaje with Bad Bunny singing a little bit of his song Calladita. And then Shakira concludes her solo part with Hips Don't Lie and her famous Zagruta part, which became an instant meme on the internet.
Ese meme quedó, yo creo que si hay un museo de memes en un futuro, el meme de Shakira haciendo el en el Super Bowl, creo que quedó épico para la historia,
God, yeah.
porque el mundo lo descubrió. Para los Shaki fans, yo me acuerdo haber hecho un meme así que nosotros estábamos viendo a Shakira así como una historia de wow, nada que no haya hecho antes, pero el mundo y yo amé que lo haya hecho ahí. Qué momento para la historia de los memes.
Yeah, definitely, because we are used to it since 2006, I think.
Sí.
Back during the World Fixation Tour, she was already doing this, but the whole world wasn't prepared for that, so it was really, really funny. Anyway, we then jump to J-Lo's solo part, which I won't talk about here. And then Shakira comes back playing the drums in a golden, still Peter Dundas outfit during J-Lo's Let's Get Loud song. Then they eventually conclude the show with Waka Waka and a really nice champeta dance, which Shakira, as you said, Kelly, still uses those days in the Las Mujeres Ya No Lloran tour.
Personally, I think the champeta really elevated that performance of Waka Waka. It was nice to see that she did something new. And I have a friend who grew up in Cartagena, and he said he died basically when he saw that she was performing such a traditional Colombian rhythm and dance style on such a big stage as that. He was so proud of that moment in particular, and she looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Y creo que para nosotros los fans fue un momento que definitivamente no esperábamos porque pues estamos acostumbrados a que Shakira es Shakira y se repite a sí misma. Y con esto sí nos sorprendió. O sea, a mí no me sorprendió que hiciera esto con la lengua. Es algo que ha hecho desde hace 20 años, pero que saliera a bailar la champeta fue wow. O sea, nadie se esperaba eso.
Yeah, definitely. For me, the whole show was I was speechless. The outfits were amazing. The song choice was really good. I mean, Empire, Prosasi, and even the champeta. I was like, wow, that was really, really cool. And
Histórico.
I don't know what you thought about this, but it was really a huge moment for me.
Absolutely. I personally hosted what I called a Shakira bowl party. So I invited friends over to my house and I made it very clear that we were not going to be watching any of the game. And before I had people come over, I sent them a link to a quiz that I found online, which was like, which Shakira song are you? And so with all the results that my friends got, I made them like custom stickers. I think there was only like six or seven possible results of her whole discography, but it was really fun to see that all my friends who were like underneath your clothes or who were all she-wolf together, they're like, "Oh my god, we have something in common." Like it was so funny. So I gave them these stickers. And then I made a YouTube playlist of like her top 10 music videos, in my opinion. So I was like educating all my non-Shaki fan friends about that. And then we watched the performance and they were all blown away. I really thought that everybody would just want to watch it one time, but they were like, "Oh my God, that was crazy. Let's watch it again." So even non-Shaki fans were really impressed, I think. A lot of people with what she did. I know there was some controversy as well
Sí.
with this performance, but we don't even need to get into that. So yeah, I think it was stunning.
So I just wanted to add something. Like, I think it was really like a step forward for Latin community in the US, because as I said, it was like the first time a Spanish song was performed during a Super Bowl show. And now 6 years later, like Bad Bunny was the headline of the show, and he performed exclusively in Spanish. And I think it was something that was nobody was like thinking it was possible, like even 5-10 years ago. And as Shakira said in an interview for Variety, she said, I quote, "It's about time. I remember when we did ours," so the Super Bowl, "that even having a little part of our set in Spanish was like a bold move. And now like he did like the whole show in Spanish. So that's like huge, definitely."
Shakira pavimentando el camino como siempre.
Mm-hmm.
Y además, no sé si se acuerdan que después de eso dijeron que ese fue el final del mundo que conocíamos, porque un mes después comenzó la pandemia. Entonces,
Exactly.
Shakira y J-Lo hicieron el final del mundo
And that's what I
prepandémico.
wanted to say, because a lot of people were like, yeah, okay, so it was like the opening ceremony of the end of the world.
Totalmente.
The opening ceremony of the end of the world. Oh my God.
And she was supposed to go on tour this year, and she didn't because
I
of the
remember.
COVID. So I think it could have been like a good teaser of what this 2021-2022 World Tour could have been. But we'll never know. And
I know. Brendan Buckley did say in some podcasts that I listened to years later that it was going to be an extension of the Eldorado World Tour. So I don't know if they would have changed the set list or the production a little bit, but it's not like she had an album that was like ready to go. That would have like completely changed. But I definitely remember that. And while we're here, I just quickly want to give a shout out to other Latinos that performed before Shakira, in particular Gloria Estefan, who performed in both 1992 and 1999.
Mhm.
And also Bruno Mars, for those who don't know, his name is actually Peter Jean Hernandez, and he's part Puerto Rican. So he performed, as well as Cristina Aguilera and Taboo, who's part of the Black Eyed Peas. So those are all Latino artists that performed before Shakira, paving the way for her and J-Lo, which
Yeah.
I think then they paved the way definitely for Bad Bunny, as you were saying.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Alejandra, would you like to keep it moving and tell us about Copa América?
Sí, pues lo más reciente hasta el momento en que grabamos este episodio, Shakira nos dio en 2024 una gran presentación, una vez más, en Miami, en el mismo estadio donde hizo el Super Bowl. Durante el medio tiempo de la Copa América, que si mal no recuerdo fue un encuentro entre Argentina y Colombia, así que tenía todo el sentido del mundo que Shakira estuviera ahí también apoyando a su selección. Aunque recuerdo que también dijo en algún momento que fue difícil para ella saber a quién apoyar porque para este entonces ya teníamos toda la sesión 53 y cómo había colaborado con Bizarrap y que él es argentino y que además a sus hijos les gustan también las cosas argentinas. Pero bueno, dejando de lado ese tema, esta fue una presentación muy corta, solo cantó 4 canciones ella, a mi parecer, no sé si ustedes recuerdan, ella salió con este trajecito similar al del Super Bowl, pero como plateado, y que también es muy similar a lo que usa ahora durante el inicio de Las mujeres ya no lloran, bueno, cuando se quita el traje después de la fuerte y empieza con las otras canciones, pero todo totalmente de color platinado, diría yo. Ella se me hace que se ve súper linda, cabello espectacular. Y no sé si recuerdan ese intro que entran como unos helicópteros, un efecto de unos helicópteros, porque ahí también fue su primera presentación, ya como con toda esta onda de las mujeres ya no lloran y con las gemas por todo el escenario, que obviamente eso es un efecto que los que estamos en televisión lo podemos ver, pero cómo estaban como que cayendo a los rubíes, los diamantes, las esmeraldas, y me encantó como que está como que este intro de algo loba, porque se ve que está la loba en el medio y hay lobas a lo largo de la presentación, pero no cantó loba, no cantó She-Wolf, cantó Hips Don't Lie, Te Felicito, TQG y Puntería. Cerró con Puntería. A mí se me hizo muy cortado, no sé si a lo mejor ensayó más y de pronto le dijeron que cortara, porque creo que había todo un debate en tener o no este medio tiempo con un artista, porque eso no había pasado antes, creo. Entonces yo lo sentí como un poco forzado el corte de estas canciones, sobre todo Puntería.
Yes, I'm not sure where it was originally confirmed or rumored, but from what I see on setlist.fm, it says that Copa America had originally given her 20 minutes to perform, but due to delays within the production of the show or the game or something, the show was shortened to only 7 minutes. So I wonder
Sí,
if that's true or not.
yo recuerdo muy bien eso, Cali, qué bueno que lo mencionas porque yo vi la transmisión y el juego empezó muy tarde porque había mucho caos afuera con los aficionados, o cuestiones ahí de logística, de seguridad, que el juego se iba retrasando. Entonces no inició a tiempo. Eh, yo tengo la teoría que Shakira ensayó más cosas, pero con todos estos retrasos no lo pudo hacer y pues ni modo, salió al escenario y cortó. Y yo creo que
Yeah.
por eso también durante Hips Don't Lie hizo mucha hincapié en el no fighting. Hasta se escucha que lo dice no fighting y voltea la cámara y lo hace así como no fighting. Yo creo que se está refiriendo a todo el caos que pasó antes, porque aquello se salió de control y por ahí decían que Estados Unidos no sabía cómo ser el anfitrión para un evento, porque esto estamos hablando de fútbol, lo que para mí es fútbol y Loïc, yo creo para ti es fútbol, que es soccer, acá en Estados Unidos.
Soccer for me.
La audiencia es totalmente diferente. Además, Argentina, por Dios, iba a ser una audiencia muy diferente, totalmente, mucha gente latina ahí y con Colombia. O sea, yo creo que hubo mucha crítica hacia Estados Unidos y cómo hicieron la logística para este evento. Y por ahí también empezaron a dudar que cómo iba a ser durante el Mundial, que también va a ser anfitrión. Pero bueno, eso es tema aparte. Regresemos a Shakira. Yo creo que tuvo una buena producción. A mí me gustó ver como esta cama de esmeraldas en el escenario, lo que fue la cancha, los zafiros, los rubíes, como ya mencioné. Siento que Shakira le echó muchas ganas y ella iba preparada para hacer más, pero bueno, por estas cuestiones que se cortó ahí porque no nos dio la sesión 53 y no nos dio She-Wolf y fue el intro She-Wolf. Lo que sí, por ejemplo, bailó Te Felicito con sus bailarines vestidos de robot, no sé si recuerdan. Similar el bailecito a lo que hizo en Times Square, pero acá sí ya venían con más producción sus bailarines y una vez más, así como en el Davis Cup, también trajo obviamente a sus bailarines que ya se veía que, bueno, ya para este entonces, bueno, ya sabíamos el Super Bowl, ya todos sus coreografías, sus bailes. Creo que Shakira lo hizo muy bien para el tiempo tan corto que le dieron, que tuvo que sacar a rescatar aquella presentación en el Hard Rock Stadium, que unos meses después lo llenó con sold outs durante Las mujeres ya no lloran. O sea, Shakira haciendo historia en ese estadio, Super Bowl, en su mero cumpleaños, luego está Copa
Claramente.
América, y después sus sold outs durante la gira Las mujeres ya no lloran. Histórico, histórico. No sé
Yeah,
ustedes
and
qué piensan de estas presentaciones, chicos.
can I do a shout out to her hair that day because it was amazing.
Yes, sí.
She was
Tremendo
so
lookazo que traía.
beautiful that day. I was like, wow, I loved it.
Yeah, she definitely looks stunning. And like you said, Alejandra, this was like the first bigger performance, I suppose, of the Las Mujeres Ya No Lloran era beyond her performance at Times Square. So it was cool to see how she was going to be reinterpreting some old songs mixed in with the new ones. And it was her last performance ever of Punteria, of which there were only 3. Okay.
Gracias a Dios.
And somehow I was at 2 of them. This was the only one that I didn't get to. I was at that Jimmy Fallon and the Times Square performances of Punteria, and this is the last one. So a mystery why it didn't make it to the set list for the tour. But not that big of a mystery, I guess.
No lo extraño. No la extraño esa canción durante el setlist de Las Mujeres Ya No Lloran. Si les soy muy honesta, creo que fue un fail. Sí, pero bueno, ese es otro tema cuando llegamos a la P de puntería.
She's a very captivating performer, and I think the production teams behind each of these sporting events knows that she's going to appeal to a wide audience in English, Spanish, both, neither. And so I'm so happy as a Shaki fan that other people have been able to see her perform at these things. Maybe people who don't pay attention to her tour or her music videos or her single choices, things like that, would catch her on TV for one of these and be like, oh yeah, Shakira's amazing. So I'm glad that she's staying in the culture through these sporting events for sure.
Yeah, and she's like definitely the queen of the World Cup. So every 4 years when there is a World Cup, everybody's like, yeah, we need Shakira back. Because all those new songs are like meh compared to Waka Waka. So yeah, she's definitely the singer of the sporting events. So
oh yeah.
Wow. Well, to wrap up this episode, I'm curious, do you two have a favorite of these 4 performances that we discussed today?
Pues creo que para mí el evento tan histórico que representó en su carrera, el Super Bowl, creo que podría decir que es mi favorito. No creo, es mi favorito de todas estas presentaciones. Nos dio momentazo para la historia y como fans creo que es algo que le admiramos a Shaki y me quedo con ese. ¿Ustedes qué tal a ti, Loïc?
Yeah, same for me. Like it was like a highlight of her career, like I said, and it was perfect for me. Even if she sang like "Hips Don't Lie" and whatever for the 100th time, I was like, yeah, she had it, Empire and ojos así, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. And the outfits, her hairstyle, everything like was perfect. So I loved it. And you, Kali?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you guys. I think the Super Bowl performance was just undeniable. Compared to some of these other events, she had the opportunity to perform more songs. I mean, I can't compare a Super Bowl where she touched on so many moments in her discography to the NBA All-Star Game, for example, where she only played 2 songs off the same album. So I think that the Super Bowl performance, while very short, and I'm sure we would have loved for her to have even more time, I think it really showed so much more of her artistry than some of these other performances. So I go with that one as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Tenemos un favorito.
Yes. All right, Shaki fans. Well, remember to follow us on social media at Shakipedia Pod to tell us your thoughts about these performances that Shakira has given. We always love hearing your thoughts on Shakira's music and live performances.
Queremos saber todo lo que opinan sobre estas presentaciones de Shakira. Cuéntenos a través de las redes.
Yeah, we'd also love to know what's your favorite performance amongst all of them. Would you like her to attend another sport event? Tell us everything.
Y no olviden decirles a más Shaki fans que nos pueden escuchar en Spotify, Apple, entre otras plataformas. Participen en la encuesta, califiquen y comenten este episodio a través de Spotify.
Yo fui Cali.
Y yo, Alejandra.
Y yo, Loïc.
Y esto fue Shaki
Pedia.
Hola, Miami. Archipeña.
Tú,
Tomás Dayani.
nadie como tú. No, eso sí, tú.